So 65% of your total body weight needs to be muscle mass. So when we do your bio trackers over here before class, that's our goal, is to get 65% of your body weight to be actual muscle mass. I had it written down here somewhere. I was going to give you a figure. I guess I won't. It's going to take too much for my brain to figure that out. But that's our goal, because that is going to help us maintain a lean body mass with the right balance of visceral, body fat, hydration, and other things that are going on. So 65% of our total body weight, we want to be muscle mass. How do we increase muscle mass? Protein and
exercise.
Exercise. You got it. You got it. Now for men, some men like to be a little closer to 90% or 90%, 70%. If you're a hardcore athlete, you're probably going to push towards 75%. In that picture that I showed you earlier, I was closer to 75% of my total body weight being muscle mass. Okay, but 65% is a general goal that we want to go for. So at the end of the day, when we're done with our 9-week program, that's what we really want to be looking at. We want to be looking at that balance on our bio tracker numbers as we go through this program. Page number 36 talks about the microbiome and protein, how they're intricately related. Studies have shown that people who are leaner, that have more muscle mass, have a more healthy diversity of microbiome, the good guys in their gut. While people who have less muscle mass and more body fat actually have more varieties of bad bacteria in their gut. So lean muscle mass and microbiome are very closely related here. So how do we raise our good bacteria and lower our bad bacteria? We eat more protein. We eat more protein, and it has to be varied amounts, which we'll talk about in a bit. So some things that you need to remember is, when do you need more protein?
First hour of the day.
Within the first hour of the day. But other situations that may happen in your life, injury. If you've had an injury, you need more protein. You need to build and repair those tissues. Illness. If you got the flu, you need more protein. If you're working out, you're probably going to need more protein, because when you work out, you tear the little muscle fibers, which is a good thing, but you got to rebuild them back up to increase your lean muscle mass. So you're going to need more protein then. If you're feeling unfocused, low energy, blood sugars are imbalanced, tired in the afternoon, all of those factors are going to tell you that you need more protein throughout the day. Energy is just not where you want it to be at. Now, according to your bio tracker numbers, I just want to make sure you understand, if your muscle mass goes down, even if your weight goes down, you need more protein. If your weight goes down, but your body fat stays the same or increases, you need more protein.
And what stays the same?
Weight stays the same or goes down. No, your weight goes down, but your body fat either goes up or stays the same. You need more protein. So that's how you can tell from your bio tracker alone. Remember I told you guys earlier, my weight went up, but my muscle mass went up even more. I lost 2 years of my metabolic age this week. And so it wasn't because my weight went up, it was because my muscle mass went up, my body fat came down. If my weight would have went up, but my muscle mass didn't go up, then I would, hey, I need more protein. But this tells me I was eating enough protein for this particular week and what I went through. Any questions on microbiome and protein and when you need it? Let's go through the symptoms of not digesting proteins properly. Wait, before we do that, let me show you one more thing. We're going to do that next. That's not in your book, by the way. So, remember last week we talked about how this program focuses on resetting, aka removing, repairing, and replenishing. Does anybody know what we're doing with this? What body system are we working on with this? What are we resetting? What are we repairing? What are we replenishing?
Gut?
Your gut, exactly. Thank you, Rosa. So we're doing the 3 R's. Protein specifically, as I gave you the example with L-glutamine, is this part of this process. It is the repair part of the process. So as we talk about protein tonight, remember that as we go through the reset, repair, replenish, protein falls in this category right here. All right, okay, now we'll move on. Okay, symptoms of not digesting protein. So it's not you are what you eat. It's you are what you digest. You can eat anything, but if you don't digest it, and it doesn't get broken down and the nutrients don't get to you, well then it just goes right on through. I've worked with a lot of people over the last 20 years that have eaten the perfect diet, do the exercise perfectly, keep their stress managed, but yet they're not healthy. And a lot of the reason being is because they're not actually digesting those good healthy foods that they're inputting. So we want to make sure if we're going to put the protein in, our body's using it. So these are symptoms of not digesting protein properly. Bloating after meals, gas, belching, acid indigestion can even be a sign. Heavy stomach. Have any of you ever had that heavy stomach after you eat? You just kind of walk around, you know, when's it going to go through? Drinking a bunch of water thinking that'll push it through. Which doesn't work, by the way. Even sluggish eliminations, especially after you eat meat, red meat specifically. If you have sluggish eliminations, after you have red meat, you notice it slows down a little bit, you're not digesting the protein. Meat takes a little longer to go through the digestive system, which is a good thing because it does burn more calories. But at the same time, if you're not digesting it, it's just going to create sluggishness in your colon specifically. So those are symptoms specifically of not digesting protein properly. Questions? So let's understand proper protein digestion. How does it work? We need to understand how it works. Protein actually has two processes in digestion. There's two stages of digesting protein in the body. But before we get into that, I want to talk to you about a little friend called enzymes. Enzymes are a part of this whole digestion process. So before we talk about this, we need to understand enzymes and what they do. The best way for me to explain enzymes is to compare this to a construction site. So we've got this construction site. We're going to build this beautiful mansion. We've got all the materials we need. We've got the nails, we've got the brick, we've got the wood, we've got the cement, we've got everything, the drywall, everything we need. We have for this beautiful mansion. Those materials would be the same thing as your vitamins and your minerals and your coenzymes, which are actually vitamins, even though they call it that. All these different nutritional things that we put in, okay? Those are all the construction materials, right? Now, we can't expect for the mansion to build itself. Somebody's got to come in and put it together. Those are the workers. Those are the construction workers that are contracted to do the job. Enzymes are contracted to do the job of breaking down your foods. If you don't have contractors to put it together, what happens to those materials? They sit in the rain. They rot. They deteriorate. They get ugly. They surely don't get into a beautiful mansion. Same thing happens in your gut. You eat this wonderful, beautiful salad with all these wonderful vegetables on it, but yet there's not quite enough enzymes in your system to actually break that down and let it go through. So what happens to it? Sits there, becomes mush, putrefies. That's when you see a lot of gas for some people. Because that literally breaks down, and it doesn't break down in a good way. It just sits there and gets heated and fermented. All of those things happen, right? So you've got to have enzymes. You've got to have the contractors to come in and break down your foods. Contractors, your enzymes are like a spark. They spark and activate the body. When we talk about herbs and natural remedies, we talk about activating the body along with building and cleansing and doing direct aids. But activators are necessary. You've got to have activators to utilize the whole system. So enzymes come in and play a really big role. So, as I go through proper protein digestion, you'll understand why I'm talking about enzymes. So, can anybody tell me when your body actually starts the digestion process? Jurianne?
In the mouth.
In the mouth. Anyone else got any guesses? Just the very thought of food
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
or
I
the
remember
process of knowing you're going to go eat something starts the digestive system. We were made beautifully.
Because your mouth
Intricately.
starts watering.
Your mouth starts watering, your brain sends a signal. This one's for you. You got this big old chocolate piece of cake. You're just ready. I mean, this is like, oh, I got my fork right here. Guess what's already happening? The pancreas is already going, oh no, she's doing it again. Get the insulin guys together because we're going to need a lot of insulin. You get my
Oh,
point?
that's mine.
That's what's happening. Literally, your body is already processing what's coming in and already preparing for that to happen. Just with the thought of knowing you're preparing food, even though you don't put a bite in your mouth yet, you're preparing it. Your body already knows what you're going to do and is already preparing for that digestive process. The next stage, of course, is when you put it in your mouth. We actually have enzymes that are in our saliva that when we chew and masticate our food are released into that food, and that starts a digestive process from a physical standpoint on that particular food. This is one of the reasons why it's so important to chew your food. Chew, chew, and chew again. Because you need to coat that food as much as you can with those enzymes to prepare it for the rest of the process. Plus you want to get it down to smaller chunks so you don't walk around with that heavy stomach, okay? So the next little thing I want to bring in as we go through this process is pH balancing. So is everybody here familiar with pH balancing, acid versus alkaline? So we've got acid and alkaline tissues, acid alkaline foods. That's a whole other kind of thing, but just to present that to get you to understand. Acid's pretty much understandable. Alkaline is going to be the opposite. So the food goes in your mouth and it goes into your esophagus. Your esophagus is an alkaline tissue. It's alkaline in nature. It doesn't like acid stuff. All right? It doesn't like acid stuff. So the food goes through your esophagus, goes down through a little valve, goes into your stomach. Now your stomach, on the other hand, is acidic. It's an acid environment. It loves acid. In fact, when you start to think about food, one of the things that happens is hydrochloric acid, which is one of your main acids that helps you break down your food, actually says, goes out to all the bloodstream and says, time to dump some hydrochloric acid into the stomach. And your body is already putting hydrochloric acid into your stomach before you even eat in preparation. The hydrochloric acid, along with some of the enzymes that are part of the first stage of digesting protein, are all released in the stomach and coats that food and gets it all prepared to go down. Now the thing is though, there's this little door that allows the digesting food in the stomach, or food that's being prepared to be digested, because it's not digested yet, to be prepared to be digested, to go through the small intestine. But that little door has a code, and that door doesn't open unless the pH of that food is at a 3 to a 4. The high scale on a pH scale is 14. 7 is neutral. So you can imagine it has to be really acidic. That door won't open because that food has to be highly acidic for it to move through. Now the problem is some of us don't have enough hydrochloric acid, but yet what happens is that food sits in our stomach, kind of creeps up into the esophagus, which is an alkaline nature, right? And then we have heartburn, we have acid indigestion, or we have that heavy stomach. And what do we think? Oh, I got too much acid. When in reality, we don't have enough acid. And for the people who like to pop the Tums and the Rolaids and all the other Prilosec, you name it, what that does is it dilutes your hydrochloric acid, thus forcing the food through, thus changing the alkalinity and acid balance of the stomach and making your body more weak to being able to digest foods properly. There have been,
I would say can lead to stomach cancer.
and yeah, I didn't know if I should bring that up.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so, and this is besides Jerry Ann's experience. I've known people who have been an acid addicts and have had stomach cancer because you mess with that natural digestive process of the stomach. But
You-
it's
you
one of the,
mean-
but it's the number one over the counter that we have sold out
You
there.
mean by taking antacids?
Yes.
Is that what your dad did?
Yes, he took, you know, cause all of his pills that he took for blood pressure, he was diabetic, all that. And every night he took an antacid, well, like Prilosec or what, you know, over the counter, Zantac.
Yeah.
Took that every night. And
Does he
then-
have heartburn or something?
Yeah, he used to always have it. I mean, when we were little, I mean, even, well, technically, even when I was in high school, we would make him soda water, baking
Mhm.
soda and water, and he would drink it.
Yeah.
And then, but then he had an aunt that said, oh yeah, I take one of those every night. So he started doing that. And then we would go and we'd fill out his little pill bill, and we'd put one in there every night, and he took it every night. And he ended up with stomach cancer, and that's where he died from. Or starvation, because he just couldn't.
Well, because he
Yeah,
couldn't
couldn't eat,
digest.
yeah. He
Couldn't
couldn't
digest
digest.
any food.
And
He
he
lost the
wouldn't-
complete ability to. All the hydrochloric acid his body had was just like, we ain't going to the stomach. We knows what happens when we go there.
He,
Yeah,
yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't want to eat.
exactly.
But in the last few days, when he was out of his mind, he was going through the motions of eating. You would watch him, and he's picking up food and he's putting it in his mouth and he's chewing. But he didn't have anything. And then he would talk about it, and he was like telling my niece Jenny, get them hot dogs over there. She's like, where? He said, 6 inches over there. Tell her, I mean, he was just crazy. And he would talk about, I want a steak, I want a steak.
He was starving.
Yeah.
So that's the first stage of protein breakdown, is in that small, or in the stomach. So then we get our pH to 3 to 4. The valve opens up and it goes into our small intestine. The small intestine is where most all of your nutrients are broken apart from the food and absorbed into the bloodstream, as I showed you here. Okay? Now the second stage of protein happens here, breakdown of protein happens here also, because the pancreas, besides providing insulin to balance blood sugars, also provides a little special enzyme called protease. And so that's another enzyme that's present to break down more of the protein. So we've got the first stage in the stomach itself with the hydrochloric acid, and then we've got the second stage with the protease that's released from the pancreas. So we need to make sure we're breaking down our proteins properly. And enzymes are the key to helping us with that. So I've got some food enzyme samples here for you guys to take tonight. Food enzymes are going to break down 30 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbohydrates, and 20 grams of fat, if I'm not mistaken. And it has a little bit of hydrochloric acid in it, because we need more hydrochloric acid than we need less, especially if you're not blood type O. A lot of times people with blood type O don't need so much hydrochloric acid. They're just naturally inherent to having more. And they may swing more towards proactazyme. But what I find with most people, you need to do food enzymes, at least to start off on, to make sure you're digesting your protein properly. Enzymes also are stored, by the way. One of the reasons we are made with a lot of enzymes in the beginning, mother's milk itself has a lot of enzymes in it naturally. Enzymes actually live in all your fresh fruits and vegetables, and as soon as you heat them over 100 degrees or so, you start to kill all the enzymes. If you juice an apple and you let that juice sit for 2 to 3 hours, all the enzymes are gone. They're very sensitive little critters. So you want to make sure that you are balancing your nutritional plan with fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, and your greens, so you can get those enzymes from your foods as well. Do you guys ever wonder why we do a salad before we have our main meal? Enzymes. The enzymes in the salad help us digest our food.
I thought it was to fill you up so you wouldn't have to eat.
I was gonna say, so does that mean no cobbler?
Yeah, no cobbler before, or no desserts before.
And just have
I know
dessert.
somebody who does that. All right, so anybody have any questions on enzymes? Okay, and
Wait,
did I give you guys? I didn't
one
give-
more. When should we take it? Before or after?
Enzymes should be like with your meal, like right before you start eating it,
Right
right in the
before.
middle of it. You can even take it right at the end if you want. That's not a
Okay.
problem too. Do you guys need one of these?
Nope. Okay. I think I
When would be the best? Would it be best to have it?
Yeah, I'm still on it.
I usually take mine right before I eat my meal. I just put it in first, that way, otherwise sometimes I forget, so. But yeah, but if you actually, you know, forget, you can still take it after, you're still good. That'll still be helpful. I'd rather take it rather than not take it, you know, at all, opposed to just waiting till next time. Because you do store the enzymes, like I was saying. I don't think, maybe I didn't finish that. You store enzymes. So even if you put in a bunch of enzymes, don't think that you're wasting them because your body stores those enzymes. The problem is we have all these enzymes when we're born, especially if we were breastfed, we get all that from our mamas as well. And then we grow up and we start eating more cooked and processed foods, we get less and less enzymes. And that's one of the reasons why we end up with this digestive issue, is because, you know, it's like, when was the last time you had fresh fruit or fresh vegetable that wasn't maybe adulterated or irritated or something like that on top of it all? So that's besides even the chemical processes that take place.
What about like fermented foods or kefir or
Yes.
kefir or whatever?
So fermented foods and kefir, they're going to have more of your good strands of probiotics in them, opposed to enzymes. But enzymes may play a small role, but not as much as the probiotics do specifically. The enzymes are really going to come from your fresh fruits and vegetables that have not been irradiated or manipulated in any way, shape, or form. All right, so if you guys all got that, let's go to page number 37. Of course, this page here talks specifically about your protein shakes. Now, our protein shakes are very easily digestible. They're actually what they call pre-digested, so they actually don't have to go through that full big process. Some of the things that your In.Form protein shakes have in them is enzymes. There's already enzymes in there to actually help you break those down, which is great. In addition to that, it also has, of course, inulin, which feeds your good bacteria. It has the phytosterols, which help with cholesterol. We'll talk more about all that later. But that's what makes these protein shakes different than the average protein shake that's out there. We've got some good stuff in there that's going to make sure we're digesting our protein properly, is what I want to make sure that you've got down in your repertoire on that one. So we want to make sure we give you plenty of ideas on options for protein if we're talking about it so much. So I've got this little list here of all sorts of different proteins and how many grams of proteins that they have in them, so you can get familiar with this, especially if you're looking for alternate sources. There you go. And then I also have another handout on meatless protein sources. So for those people who want to balance themselves between meat and vegetarianism, or be vegetarian, this can give you some ideas of where you can get some meatless options of protein specifically. So I'll give this out. The only thing that we do not eat right now on the In.Form program that's on here is oatmeal. Oatmeal has a great amount of protein in it, but it's not part of our In.Form program right now. Okay? Now I do want to say, we want to do as much as we can at getting varied amounts of protein, including plant proteins. Obviously, the amount of amino acids and the type of amino acids we get from plants and get from meats is very different. So getting a wide variety of different protein sources is really super important. It's one of the reasons why I like the pea protein shake so much. I think it's really easy for most of us to get a lot of animal proteins in, but it's a little more challenging, especially if we're not used to getting proteins from plants, to do that. So that's why I'm a big proponent of the pea protein specifically. It's a plant protein. It has a different profile of amino acids than a chicken would be, than beef would be. And we need these varied amounts because we don't, if we eat chicken, 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 chicken all day long, we're only getting this set of profile of amino acids. We're not getting what comes from broccoli. We're not getting what comes from nuts, protein, seeds, okay? So we need to make sure we're varying that and really doing our best to incorporate more sources of plant protein. This is a theory that I'm just sharing. I'm still looking for backing on this. But my thought process is that the amino acids we get from plants, even though the grams of protein isn't as high, actually can be more healthy for us than all the animal proteins. And I'm not against animal protein. I'm a meat eater, okay? But what I'm saying is that if somebody were to eat a lot of plant proteins, they may not need as many grams of protein to match the density of the nutrition. Does that make sense? Like I said, that's kind of a theory I have, but just throwing that out there just to make sure you guys understand the importance of plant proteins. All right, any questions on proteins and protein sources before we move on here? We're on the downhill slope, folks.
How many 5 grams of spinach, how much is that? 5 grams of spinach.
Oh, how much?
I mean, not 5 grams, I mean.
Oh, per serving?
Yeah, what serving size is that?
That's
to
a
get the
really good
5
question. I would
grams?
think it'd probably be an ounce, maybe. Be a big old handful.
Oh, okay, okay.
It'd be pretty big, fresh.
Because
Obviously,
we
it was
eat the
cooked.
fresh, I mean, I always put mine in my protein shake, and I
Yeah.
knew, and you gave us that container of like, I'm gonna show us how much, if we was doing it with spinach alone, it was
Yeah.
that big 10-ounce
Yeah,
container.
yeah,
And we'd have to do that all day, I mean, like, get that in one day,
yeah,
so.
right. Yeah, it's actually the 5-ounce container we want to get
Okay,
in
yeah.
throughout the whole day. But
Well,
yeah,
an
but it's,
ounce and a whole
I would
day.
imagine that would be about an ounce. We would have to
Okay.
double check that information, but I would think about 1 ounce of spinach would be about your 5 grams, because that's going to be a huge handful,
Okay,
huge handful.
okay,
So if,
thank you.
okay, when you're getting in your protein, I have an issue with in the afternoon,
Uh-huh.
getting the protein in. But after I've eaten supper and I've had protein, then I want something sweet. I'll just go get a spoonful of peanut butter and eat it.
Great. Fantastic.
Is that, I mean,
That's totally acceptable.
that's just acceptable, okay, just as
Totally
long as I
acceptable.
get the protein, because I know that you should have it every few hours, so
Every
if
2
I'm
to 3
missing
hours.
it, is that
Yeah.
gonna knock my muscle mass or my
Well,
my
I
muscle
mean,
building?
yeah, you want to try to not miss it, but kind
Yeah.
of like we were talking about before. I mean, if it's about bedtime and you haven't got all your protein in, it's better to put it in than to not put it in at all.
Okay, that's
You know,
what
but do
I'm
your
doing.
best to keep things around you, keep nuts around you, keep, hard-boiled eggs, keep things around where you can just pop it in and get it. You know, make sure you've got your protein shaker with you everywhere you go. You know, and with the little thing of protein in it at the bottom, cups that we're talking about, you know.
Because sometimes if I do the protein shake, I end up with like a big cup
Yeah.
full, and sometimes I'll try to drink half of it for the morning snack and then half in the afternoon.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
You can do that, especially if you're following that formula that's no
Yeah,
longer up here, the
okay.
37, 37, 30. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, just do your best at getting it in as regularly as you can. The other thing that will help you, especially if you have a sweet craving, is more fats. You need to try and maybe eat an avocado with that protein meal at night if you're feeling like you're craving sweets. Because fats and protein together will help you not crave sugars.
Okay.
Okay? They'll help, and if you have any carbohydrates at all, you definitely need to do fats with that. Because the fats will slow the sugar from hitting your system, which causes you to crave more
Okay.
later on.
Well, because you know me and my lunch, I love sandwiches.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that's so hard. Because, well, that and just being home, it's just the easiest thing.
Yeah. Have you tried the spelt tortillas over here?
I haven't, but I bought the carb balance
Yeah.
at Walmart.
Yeah.
But I've been, instead of putting, and I've been using that as, for my sandwich, but I'll put, those little deals of guacamole, I'll put
Yeah.
some of that on there.
Good. That's great.
Over above your bread.
Oh, I bought this zero carb bread.
Okay.
It doesn't really have a flavor. Usually when you eat a sandwich, you can taste the
Yeah,
bread. And
yeah.
When you eat a sandwich, you taste what's on the sandwich.
So I would
The
love
meat-
to see a label.
I
Bring that with you next week, because
I
we're
will.
talking about labels next week. Let's
I
look
will.
at that and see,
because it has,
See what's going on there.
because of the fiber,
yeah,
it's the same as the carb. So
Yeah.
that zeroes it out, right? That's what they say, that the fiber.
let's look at the label and see what they say, yeah.
So,
Yeah. But I would definitely recommend spelt tortillas, because spelt tortillas don't have the same impact of gluten as wheat
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
And you don't have the wheat yeast, and you don't have all these other binders and fillers and da-da-da-da-da-da. And it still gives you that bread kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Especially if you get the white ones, and the white ones are really not that much different nutrition than the brown ones.
Okay.
Did you have a question, Rosie?
And when you do the spelt, I thought we weren't eating
We aren't.
starchy things in the program, so
Well,
can you do spelt
Yeah,
on the
spelt.
program?
Spelt is not starch, but spelt is still a carbohydrate. So yes, we are looking to eliminate that. But if you're like me, and I have my flex night every Friday night typically. I love to have a big old hamburger with all the veggies and avocado and cheese, and you just go for it. But I would prefer a spelt tortilla than I would bread.
Ooh.
And I actually am at that point. I would prefer to have a tortilla than the bread.
Yeah.
So when I have my flex night, that's my flex. But it's still
Spelt tortilla.
a spelt tortilla instead of the bread. Yeah.
I was doing flex
Yeah.
night with all of that and no bread, hamburger on the plate.
Well,
Well,
you go,
how
but
is
you
that? That ain't flexing nothing.
You go. Okay, so let's wrap this up real quick. We need to talk about proper eliminations. I promised you earlier we were going to talk about poo, so here it is.
Yay.
So, when your gut is healthy, you produce very little gas. When your gut is healthy, your stools will not kill somebody in the next room. And when your gut is healthy, you are typically happier. Has anybody ever had an elimination and afterwards they're like, woo, I feel better? Happens to me quite frequently. It's great. Okay? Now, you may notice at the beginning of this program, especially if you're just starting some of the supplements, that you may have more gas than what you had beforehand. I want to make sure that you understand that what that is gas from built up fecal matter that's been kind of lodged into corners and is now getting loosened up and it's coming out because it's putrefied and you're going to have more gas. Your body is also adjusting to the protein patterns. You've got a little bit of a war potentially going on, especially if your bacteria, your good bacteria right like this and your bad bacteria right like this. All of a sudden, you're feeding the good bacteria and they're all happy doing the happy dance, but the bad bacteria are not happy at all. And so they're mad. So you may feel like you have a little war going on inside your stomach sometimes, especially when you first start doing this program, just because of that alone. As we eliminate and kill this bad bacteria, you may even have weird eliminations. You may have more, you may have less, you may have harder, you may have looser, you may have all sorts of different ranges because your body is working to adjust to your new nutritional plan and the supplements that you're taking because you're not doing what you used to do anymore. Okay? So that's totally okay. If you have something happening that's completely out of perspective and uncomfortable, please talk to me before you stop doing what you're doing so we can assess that and look at that. I kind of had a little bit of experience with it, so I can help you figure that out. All right?
And you know a great massage if you're constipated.
Yes. I do. I am constipation eliminator queen.
Oh my God. It is amazing.
It can only come from somebody who used to have that as well.
Yes.
So the thing is, if we're changing the microbiome balance, are we going to expect a battle to happen between the good and the bad? Yes. If you start exercising and you start sweating, do you stop?
Yes.
No. Jerry Ann.
I'm kidding.
No, we don't. Just like we don't want to stop our program. We want to continue to push forward and look for having a balance. I will tell you that, especially if you do the pea protein, you'll notice that a lot. You may have a lot of gas in the first couple, 3 weeks of doing the pea protein. But that levels out and it evens out as well. Just do not give up on accelerating to the proper balance, all right? So let's talk about what your poo should look like. First of all, you should have 3 eliminations per day. Train in, train out. You eat breakfast, you eliminate breakfast from the day before. You eat lunch, you eliminate lunch from the day before. Dinner, 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 just like babies. You feed them, they poop. That's the way we should be. Unfortunately, most of us are not that way. I'm really happy if you're a sluggish person, if you can get to at least 1 per day. But 1 per day consistently is what we're looking for. All right, at least 1 per day. A proper elimination is going to be 18 inches long. That's the length of your colon, 18 inches long. It should be about this big around. Should be easy to pass. Sit down, it's out, you're up, you're gone. That's how it should be. You shouldn't have to read half a magazine just to let it come out. Okay?
Take up Sudoku.
It should be about these brown colors right here, somewhere in here, maybe a little darker. You don't want black and you don't want green or yellow. We're looking for this darker brown. Now, if you're doing the Ultrabiome DTX, aka used to be the purifier, it may be a little on the green side, and that's okay, because that's the chlorophyll in it. Okay? I'll have eliminations sometimes where like half of it's green and half of it's broiler brown, just because the ultraviolet is really interesting because you can tell when you ate different foods. But anyways, we won't get all that.
Or don't eat cupcakes with this blue frosting.
Oh, Walmart.
I thought, what in the world?
And blue Kool-Aid.
Oh my gosh, sure am. Okay.
Well, it scared me.
Oh, it would scare me too.
I thought, God, I hope that was a cupcake. It was,
All right.
because he did it.
He did, it's all his fault. So the other thing with your eliminations is they should have form. That doesn't mean it has to be one big form, but it does need to have form. If it's loose and it completely breaks and falls apart, we're not getting enough fiber or something's not going on right. But we do need to have some kind of form. We should not have explosive eliminations, splattering all over. Nothing like that should be happening. Unless maybe you're on a cleanse, and that's a whole other story. We'll talk about that next week, okay? But you should have some form to your elimination. Most of us have clockworks on our digestive system. We probably eliminate about the same time every day. That's pretty normal. That may start to fluctuate on this program. Also, you shouldn't have to use half a roll of toilet paper to wipe. You really should only have to use maybe 1 or 2 wipes, 3 wipes at the most. If you're having to wipe more than 3 times, then we're not there yet with the eliminations. Okay? We need to make sure that we're thinking about that as well. All right, any questions on what the proper elimination looks like? All right, and it's not blue like cupcakes. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up, folks. Page number 38. Page number 38. So SMART goals for this week. All right, so your SMART goals are going to be 2 goals, and you're going to write your SMART goals down tonight before you leave. Okay, before you leave, you're writing down 2 SMART goals. One of those SMART goals needs to center around nutrition, water, or supplements. You might want to think about getting a protein in within an hour of waking up if you're challenged with that, like yours truly is. You might want to think about eating protein every 2 to 3 hours. Or if your water is a struggle, put water down. But it needs to be centered around something that goes in your mouth. Okay? That's your first goal for the week. And it's just till the week, from now until next Tuesday. Make sure it's specific, measurable, accountable, realistic. Second goal is your exercise goal. You need to have an exercise goal of some sort this week, whether it's getting more steps in. Let's be more specific too if we can, not just get more steps in. But let's try and make a range of it. You know, to take the stairs every time we have the option of an elevator, if that's in your realm, whatever it may be, but think about your exercise level and where you're at right now and what you can do to increase that for next week, whatever that may be. Like I told you earlier, mine was 7,500 steps a day this week. So this week mine's going to be the same 7,500 steps a day, but making sure that I get at least 90 minutes of exercise in during the week. 90 minutes of exercise. So I'm just going to bump that up just a little bit. Something that's doable that I can do. Your homework for the week is to read, of course, module number 4. Work on consuming your protein every day. Stepping up your physical activity. We just talked about that. And your other homework is to start evaluating your eliminations. Evaluate your eliminations so you know what your starting point is and what's happening. All right. So next week, we talk about toxicity,